Hey y'all, welcome to my channel. Be the change, change the world where it's not just a nice idea, but it's an initiative and it's a lifestyle. Now, first of all, I'd like to say welcome. Welcome back, whichever the case may be. I'm happy that you're here. I'm going to be not doing a tarot reading today on this video, but I need to talk about the concept of manipulation, gaslighting, emotional abuse, brainwashing. Many people experience this hidden form of abuse. I was one of them. So I'll be talking about the things that I've experienced, what I've learned from them, and also what I've learned in general about the topic. So, so I just want to spread some awareness about this hidden form of insidious abuse that's happening every day. And it happens to children, it happens to adults, it happens to anybody who's susceptible. So there is a lot of trust that a person places in another in order for this abuse to perpetuate and continue. Many times, these manipulative tactics are used on us by our family, our friends, our spouses, our children, but that's a little less common. In the workplace. So it's not widely known. I mean, it is, but there needs to be more awareness. So whoever the person is that is doing these things, they need to gain your trust. Whether this is a cult leader, it could be a religious or spiritual leader, it could be your parents, your family members, your bosses, your coworkers, your friends. It could be the person that you're married to or been in a committed relationship with, who you have children with. So however the relationship dynamic is, the first thing they need to do is gain your trust. I think it's most insidious whenever it's a parent or a spouse that does this. They gain your trust and then they isolate you. They give you these suggestions that the people in your life that are supportive of you aren't to be trusted for whatever reason. These reasons could be valid, but they may not be, right? So you trust this person, you trust what they think, you trust what they say, and you just find yourself going along with it. So once they get you to trust them and they are able to isolate you from your support system, then they work on breaking you down. This typically starts in subtle forms, like you'll be having a great day and then all of a sudden they'll make a comment to you that hurts your feelings. It could be about anything. It could be about your body, um, making a comment about your body to body shame you. It could be a comment about your competence, your intelligence. Um, could be a comment about your emotional state. I mean, it could be anything. But whatever these things are that they're saying, they're like they're pushing your buttons, and they're poking all these different buttons to slowly um, erode at your self-esteem and your value as a human being, to the point where you have no self-esteem, no sense of self-value, and they really get inside your head, and they make you believe all of these things about yourself that are actually just projections of how they feel about themselves onto you, so that they can feel better about themselves and gain that sense of power and superiority over you. And once they have you in a state of conditioning, so you get used to this treatment a little bit at a time, to the point where it gets awful, it gets terrible, where they're never nice anymore. It gets to the point where they're constantly nasty, and you're constantly arguing and fighting. But whenever this happens, they make you feel guilty for them getting angry at you, which has nothing to do with you. And it says everything about them, but it's them projecting how they feel about themselves onto you. So, in very controlling and abusive situations, for example, you take a bath, and you don't clean the bathtub out when you're done, and you know how the bathtub leaves like a funky ring, and that happens, right? Well, the person that you're living with sees this, and that they take this opportunity to be like, you nasty hog, why don't you clean up after yourself in the bathtub? Like, I've told you so many times, like clean up after yourself when you're done using the bathtub, because I don't want to see that nasty funky ring in the bathtub. This is just an example. I mean, a personal example of mine, but it's an example. And you get conditioned to their reaction to something that you did that was like a relatively unconscious thing. Like, you get out of the bathtub, like you're focused on drying off and getting dressed, and sometimes maybe brushing your teeth or combing your hair if you have hair. But you're focused on what you need to do for you, and you forget that you left the bathtub funky. Okay? So, after a while, you get conditioned. You get conditioned to be like, hey, I gotta clean up that funky ring in the bathtub before I get the wrath of whoever it is to you. Getting angry because you failed to clean up after yourself from the bathtub. And so you learn what that person expects of you. Now, when the person switches up on you, and they often do, to gain that power and that feeling of superiority over you, and demanding your submission, they oftentimes change things up. So, like, all these different things, like, you get conditioned to be proactive, and you're walking on eggshells, you're trying to please this person, and then they will look for something new, something that you failed to do, and then they will rub it in your face. I remember one day in a past relationship with my second baby daddy. I was tired of hearing him complain about what I wasn't doing all the time. So one time while he was at work, I cleaned the whole apartment. But the one thing that I missed, he was sure to see that and pick that out. So I had cleaned everything in the entire house except for the toilet. I was busy, okay? I was doing like some serious scrubbing and some serious laundry, and I scrubbed the floors, I vacuumed floors, I made beds, I did laundry, I put clothes away, I did all the dishes like 3 or 4 times. Like, there was just a lot of dishes, okay? And I didn't really like to do them very often when I'm talking, I was really young. Like, I was in my very early 20s. And he came home from work, and he did not say anything. He was just looking around at everything that was really clean. When he got home, there was like a spoon in a sink and a cup in the sink, but they were rinsed out, but they were dirty because I was using them. I was, keeping myself hydrated and fed while I was doing all this work. He comes home, he goes to the bathroom, he didn't even go straight to the shower like he normally did. He just went to the bathroom and he used the toilet, and he come back out and he says, "Well, I see you forgot to clean the shitter." That's what he called it. And I was so devastated because I was so proud of what I had done. Like, the apartment had never been cleaner, and I thought that, it was really going to get like happy feedback, be like, "Oh, like," and just like, I don't know, I thank you, or appreciation, or just have a wonderful rest of the day with him. But no, that didn't happen. I got angry, and I was like, I did so much work today. So I worked so hard to please this guy, and he come back with the one thing that I forgot to do. And then he's like, "Oh, and you have a couple things in the sink. Well, that's nothing new." It's like, this kind of stuff really erodes on our self-esteem, and over time it makes us feel worthless. And this is the process of conditioning. And I've experienced conditioning from so many people in my past that I really had no basic sense of self. I was not happy. I was looking to other people to make me happy because all they ever did was make me miserable. Talking about my failures and my flaws, and just highlighting my failures and flaws, and illuminating them as if it's the most important thing in the world. They weren't even focused on what I was doing that was right, that was helpful, that was something to be appreciated. Like, none of that. And when you go through decades of this abusive conditioning, you get used to it. Alright? You get used to it. It becomes normal. You think it's normal. because it's all you've ever known. But it's not normal. It's not normal. It is extremely abusive. Nothing you will ever do will ever be good enough for these individuals. Period. Everything that you do right, they'll disregard it. They will not say anything about it, and they will pick at the one thing that you forgot to do, that you failed to do. So, gaslighting. I've experienced this in my past from at least one significant relationship that I had. It didn't start right away. This form of abuse, it didn't start until probably 4 or 5 years into the relationship that I was aware of. So this gaslighting technique was occurring because in the beginning of the relationship, the reason why the gaslighting wasn't occurring is because that guy already had me isolated. I lived in Tucson, Arizona. My family is here in Pennsylvania, most of them. And I did have a couple family members in Tucson, but I wasn't very close to them, so they weren't really like my support system. So while we lived there, I was already isolated, so there was no need to gaslight me. Well, we couldn't afford to live there anymore, and I was forced to move back to Pennsylvania after a few years or so, because I needed the help and support of my family, my friends, you know. And once that happened and we moved to Pennsylvania, and it didn't happen overnight, it just kind of slowly morphed into that. He started getting jealous because I had all these people around me that loved me, and his family was in Chicago area, some of them, and he had some other family in North Carolina, and some family just scattered around. And so he was feeling very insecure about the fact that I had all these people around me who cared about me, who supported me, who loved me, and he didn't have that, and he felt alienated. And the truth of the matter is like, he wasn't even close to his family. The only time that he wanted anything to do with his family is whenever he needed something from them, like he needed some kind of help, like some money or something. Well, he started talking to my family and friends, and he started giving them different versions of events that had happened, that made me look like my perception should be questioned. Like, I wasn't perceiving things in a realistic way, that, you know, that I wasn't dealing with a full deck of cards, or however the phrase is. And he would twist and distort reality and about my perception, so that the people that supported me would support him and his narrative, because he was seeking emotional support or financial support or whatever the case may be. And while he was doing this to the important people in my life, he was also saying to me, oh, well, we would be fighting about something that had happened between he and I. And this started happening regularly, after we'd been together 5 years and 6 years, and we were together for a total of 8 years, and at least 5 or 6 of them were pretty miserable. And he started saying, well, things didn't happen the way that you think that they happened. Like, your perception, your memory is off. Like, this didn't happen, but it happened like this. Like, this guy was so good at making me question myself. And I'm like, okay. Like, I started just really contemplating that what he was saying might actually be true. Like, perhaps I was under so much stress and pressure from the fighting and the instability of the relationship, and all these things that were happening, like the chaos dynamic that was happening between him and my family. They didn't like him, and he was trying to win them over with distortion and exaggeration techniques of deception. Because there's 4 types of deception, aka lies. The first type of deception, the first type of lie, is the lie that you willfully commit. So this is me saying that, okay, the sky is red when the sky is clearly blue and has white clouds in there. The sky is not red. Like, sometimes in Tucson they'll have like these really beautiful sunsets. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about in general. So that's a lie of commission, like a lie that you willfully commit. Or another example of a lie of commission is you are walking down the street and you say, I'm just standing here, but you're walking. That's a lie, clearly. There's just examples. There is the second lie of omission. That's leaving important details out that could influence another person's behavior towards you in some way. And this was one that I operated in very comfortably for many years in my past, because it was easier to leave out how I felt or what I thought about whatever in order to keep the peace. And for the majority of my life, I smoked a lot of marijuana. I smoked a lot of weed. And I would lie about that too. Like, I'd be high, like, almost all the time. And, like, my grandma would be like, are you okay? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm fine. I'm just tired. Like, I've done a lot today. But while that other thing might be true, that I'm tired and I've done a lot today, I also left out the fact that I smoked a whole bunch of weed to help magnify that. So that's leaving stuff out. A lie of omission. The third type of lie or deception is distortion. This is distorting facts just a little bit. It's like playing with perception, and it's so, for example, a lie of distortion is like, it's kind of tricky because it's hard to give an example of distortion, but it is twisting facts to fit your narrative. And it's sort of true, but kind of not. So it's distortion. And the fourth lie is the lie of exaggeration. I've come across this a lot in my life. Like, someone says, "Oh, I'm like in this wonderful relationship. We're happy. We've got all this stuff going on. Like, we have great jobs. We have a home. We have a car. We have kids." And yes, while all that's true, they're exaggerating on how happy they are. Okay, and they're not happy at all. So that's like a mixture of commission and just taking the truth and just stretching it, because it's easy to tell the truth about a few different things, but then just kind of blow it up, magnify it, or in some other cases minimize. They're like, "Well, we fight sometimes, but don't all couples do?" That's a form of minimization. So there's all types of ways that we can be deceived. And so the gaslighting is, "Oh, well, that really didn't happen the way that you say that it did. It happened like this." And it's like they're recollecting a version of events that you remember perceiving differently. It didn't happen like that. Don't be so dramatic. And lots of times, like, whenever this is happening, like, you could have very valid points. Like, this person is really, like, hurting you, hurting your reputation, hurting your social image with other people, and they go behind your back and they tell other people just how awful you are behind closed doors. We'll just leave it very general like that. And then it gets back to you that they said A, B, and C about you, and it was like some of the most terrible shit that you could ever hear about yourself. You know that those things were either completely not true or completely exaggerated or distorted, or whatever the case may be. And then you confront the person who said A, B, and C about you that was just so devastational and so hurtful, and there were parts of it or a lot of it that was just untrue. And a lot of times they're doing that and putting it on you when it was them that was behaving that way. And then whenever they behave badly in that way, and then you lash out at them, they're not the bad guy, you are, because you had the reaction, you confronted them, and you were like, what are you doing? Like, why are you saying this stuff about me when you know full well that you did that? So lots of times in relationships, when someone accuses you of cheating, lots of times they're the ones that are cheating, and they're just feeling guilty, bringing it up because they're feeling guilty, and wanting to shift the blame in order to make them feel better about what they're doing. And it happens so often. So if you're ever in a relationship with anyone and they really come full guns at you, and they seriously blame you for cheating, that child isn't mine, blah 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 blah. You know, you really need to see that as the red flag that it is, and be aware that if you're not the one cheating, it's them projecting their worry, their fear, their guilt upon you to shame you for their actions. Then you find out that they were the ones cheating all along. Then you confront them again, and they're like, well, it's because you're a lousy homemaker. You don't cook very well, and you don't keep the place clean enough, and just finding all these things to attack you, make it seem like it's your fault because they cheated. Just excuses. Just another way for them to feel better about themselves for what they can't get out of it now. And so gaslighting is whenever they're like, oh, don't be so dramatic. You know that if you would have never did what you did, I would have never said what I said. So maybe you shouldn't do the thing that you did, whatever that thing was. So I won't have to say that kind of stuff to other people. Those are veiled threats. That's a form of assimilation. And it's gaslighting. It's minimizing your feelings that they hurt and blaming it on you, which is completely and utterly unfair. And that's how so many people operate. They've grown up with this conditioning from an early age. They think it's normal. And then they go and they continue to treat people the way that they have always been treated. And it's very unconscious too. A lot of times. Maybe some aspects of it are conscious. But I can remember that since I grew up with this conditioning, how I was treating people was not conscious to me. I was not aware that I was hurting people. The only thing that I was aware of was how people hurt me. And then I started down the road of listening to tarot readings on YouTube. And after a while, they were talking about psychology concepts, like what I'm talking about right now. And they kind of, I don't know who the reader was, and this was probably back in the time of COVID, whenever everything was locked down. I had nothing but time. I mean, I had a part-time job. I was able to pay my rent, but that was basically about it. I was able to eat because, I had help from, food stamps. So I had a whole lot of time on my hands because I think I was working 28 hours a week. And I remember this one YouTube tarot reader. She was talking about being in toxic relationships with other people, family, relationships, friends, all of these things. And they really got my brain really thinking about, okay, so I was abused by multiple people throughout my life. It's just don't feel sorry for me. I don't feel sorry for me. It made me who I am today. But they hurt me. And because I was hurt, I hurt them. Okay? And I felt that when I retaliated, that it was justified. That's participating. That's feeling trapped in toxic relationships with others, whether it's family, friends, relationships. And I've really experienced this from just about every domain in the past. And I didn't want to lose them because these people were the only form of love and support that I knew. And I didn't want to lose that. But at the same time, they were hurting me. They were making me miserable because of their choice to do the things that they did, said the things that they said, whether it was to me or to other people about me, and then whenever I would confront them, they would just blame me. And so, like, I developed this skewed mindset that everything was my fault. And because that was all I was ever told. My reactions were my fault. But anyhow, this YouTuber was like, you're never trapped in any relationship with anyone. You're participating in that dynamic. So because you're still in relationship with this person, you're still in communication with this person, you're still participating in that toxic back and forth with each other. I had to hold myself accountable for my participation. And then I would justify it by saying, well, if I lose them, I don't have anything or anyone. And so I don't want to lose that because, you know, they want to talk to me. And I was also very codependent, and I was not aware of it. So there were a lot of things that I needed that I wrongly believed that I couldn't do on my own because that was how I was conditioned. I was conditioned to depend on another person for whatever it was that I didn't think that I could do myself. And so, like, I found myself subjecting myself to toxic roommates. Some of my roommates had been my family members over the years, and it was so toxic. It was like I thought that I needed the other person for residential stability and ultimately financial stability, because I believed that I could, and at the time it was true, I couldn't afford to live by myself a lot of my life. So I was like, I felt that I had to depend on people to help me pay the rent, help me pay the bills, to live under the same roof with me and help me do this. Well, it got to the point where those people that I was depending on for help, they were abusing me. They were gaslighting me. They were taunting me, humiliating me. They would say horrible things to me, hurt my feelings all the time. I mean, I had zero self-esteem. And even though the things that they said hurt and made me angry, I was even angrier that I believed everything they ever said. And that I was a worthless POS, and I would really never amount to anything, basically. And oh, stop being dramatic, Lisa. Like, this is just how it is. Just accept it. That's toxic codependency and gaslighting. It's abuse. And when it's all you've ever known, you don't know that it's abuse. You just know that you hate it. You just know that everything keeps coming back to that, and you must be the problem. You must be the one doing something wrong, because these people constantly keep doing and saying these things to hammer down on your self-worth and self-esteem. This is brainwashing, and it's very insidious, especially whenever the person would treat you so terribly and then turn around and tell you that they love you. And then they give you things sometimes to appease you, and you're like, oh, thank you, like, you gave me whatever, whatever it was, a nice, a cool little gift, or you needed help with money, and they're like, oh, sure, I have that for you, but it always comes with strings attached. Like, then they make you feel like crap because you took money from them, because you needed help and you asked for help, and then they gave the help, and then they never let you forget that they helped you. And then they condition you with several no's whenever you're asking for help. They like, no, I can't, no, 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 no. And then randomly you keep asking, and then one time and another time down the road, they're like, oh yeah, I can help you out with that, and then it goes into the same cycle. Well, what are you going to do for me? I gave you money to help you with your rent. I helped you put money in your gas tank. So I want something now. So everything, all the things that you ask for now have expectations attached to them. You're expected to do whatever they want. And they crack that whip like it's imaginary, but they're like, well, so like, I knew someone who was once very close to me, and they had a fixed income, and they had just enough money to live on. Well, this person had a spending problem. If they saw something or a couple things or whatever that they liked, they would get whatever it was that they wanted, and then whenever it came time around to pay a bill or pay the rent, they'd be short, and they'd be like, oh, hey, can I borrow some money off of you? They would never pay it back once I would give it to them, because it was just expected, because this person was just terrible with their money, and every time they asked for help, they expected it. And they very rarely ever gave help. Whenever they did, it was like, well, I helped you, so what are you going to do for me? Like, I want you to do my dishes, and I want you to do them my way. Just an example. So this is how you get roped into being manipulated and serving others who expect you to do things for them, and you do that to placate them so they don't get mad at you, and you bend over backwards for them, and you're walking on eggshells for them, and then the next thing you know, they're just attacking you again, and you're just like, well, I don't think anything I ever will do is good enough for that person, and you're right. It won't be, ever, because they expect it, they demand it, and the minute that you fail to do something that they want you to do, they will ostracize you for it. They will make you feel like crap for it. They will humiliate you for it. It can bring other people and be like telling all their friends, or even worse, all of your friends, about X, Y, and Z that you may or may not have done. And if you have done those things, they're exaggerated, they're distorted, there's stuff left out, and maybe you lose friends, or because they feel like, oh well, someone very close to them, they know them better than I do. They're telling me that Lisa's not to be trusted. So if I can't trust her, what's the point of having her in my life? So I have lost some friends, because I've had family members saying whatever they wanted to say about me, and a lot of people that I was friends with had ghosted me because of deception, lies that were said on my name, whether it was lies of commission, omission, distortion, exaggerating, or any combination of those. But that's how they do it. The most insidious thing a person can ever do is isolate you, condition you, and then over time just gradually abuse you without any second thought. It's a process. They build you up, they break you down. They build you up, they break you down. They build you up and they break you down. They tell you everything that you want to hear to keep you from, not talk to them anymore, to keep you from moving out of the home. They promise things. Oh, well, I'll go to counseling. And they never do. They promise things like, I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. And then they do that thing again. Or they do something else that's worse. There's always an escalation to these things. And in worst case scenarios, people die. Because there are a lot of narcissistic people out there who don't even know that they're narcissists, but whenever they're escalating more and more and more and more with what they're doing, with the abuse that they're perpetrating, so many of them get dangerous. And they'll try to kill you, or they will kill you. I mean, there's so many instances of this. Parents killing their children. Husbands killing wives, wives killing husbands. Because that cycle of abuse continues to escalate. And the narcissistic person, whether they're diagnosed or they just have the traits, not diagnosing anybody, but they have to win at all costs. They're the most jealous, insecure, and emotionally unstable people out there. And then they blame the person that they're jealous of, the person that makes them feel less than. So then they have to go out of their way to make that other person that they're jealous of, that makes them feel less than, make them feel worthless. It's a power trip. It's operating in your shadow aspects of being human. It's unacceptable. And I felt like this video explaining in detail how it's done, like the process of how it's done and what it entails. Because I feel that so many people don't understand that they don't have to stay trapped in those relationships to continue to be hurt, to continue to participate in hurting each other. Because even the victim has a role to play. Even the victim has a role to play, that sometimes they become the perpetrator. The waters get muddied here. They do. Even the victim's hands aren't clean, because they do lash out and retaliate back. Maybe not every time, but especially if you're an emotion stuffer and you just like keep stuffing it, be like, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to say anything, I'm just going to try to please this person, to make them happy. And then whenever that pressure is built up, you just explode and you do or say something that is totally hurtful in response to what the other person's doing. That is participation, and we are accountable for however we participate. We're also held accountable for staying in these situations that aren't good for us, because it's a form of self-abuse. Because you're allowing that person who has done nothing but abuse you and control you and manipulate you and gaslight you, you keep letting them. You keep giving them opportunities to continue to do that to you. That's not victim shaming, but it's not. It's just, you do have an element of responsibility for your participation. You don't have to put up with that. I don't care who they are to you. I don't care if they are your family members. Family ain't everything. Not everyone's family is supportive of them. 100%. Not everyone's family has their backs. A lot of times, people use the concept of family, that blood is thicker than water. They use this to their advantage to continue to use and abuse you, to keep you isolated, to keep you giving, to keep you participating. Free yourself. Whether it's a spouse, a family member, friends, work environment, relationships, whoever these people are. The only thing that you can do is walk away. Leave. Move out. Stop talking to them. Change your number. Ghost them. You can't win fights with these people, because they will go back to the same dirty tactics to keep you beat down, to keep you isolated, to keep you unhappy, to keep you having a very negative perception about yourself, keeps you in submission to continue to take their crap. Those with eyes to see and ears to hear will hear this message. If this is happening to you, the only thing that you can do is leave them. Move. Change your number. Go somewhere else. Stop talking to them. You will never win the fight by fighting fire with fire. You will always lose. That's really all I have to say. Lots of times, you can't even prove this insidious abuse. You can't prove it. Because it's your word against theirs. These things happen behind closed doors. In private. One-on-one conversations with other people. For social ostracizing, which is spreading rumors about people that aren't true to get people to turn against them, to get people to ignore them, to get people on the side of the person who is engaging in these psychological warfare tactics. Yeah, you heard me. It's psychological warfare. And the most powerful way that you can fight this is by walking away for your peace. Another key element of this is forgiveness. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. But that doesn't mean that I have to keep participating in this with them. A lot of times they'll like crawling back to you and they'll, oh, please forgive me. But just remember that apologies without actual change is manipulation. Even if they are showing with their actions temporarily that they've changed, lots of times they'll go back to the same behavior because it's what they know. It's a very unconscious thing. And they very intentionally, are doing things to make it look like they're changed, but then they get comfortable and a few months later or 6 months or whatever long it is, they go right back to it. That's not real change. It's manipulation. And the only thing that you can do is forgive them for your health and well-being. Not for them, because they certainly don't deserve your forgiveness. Do it for you, so you can live in peace. That's it. I know this video was a little long, but the message was very important. I mean, I talk about it sometimes in some of my readings, but I thought that it would be very important to talk about the whole process of how this is done and how it continues. It stops when you decide it stops. When you decide that you're no longer going to live with someone who mistreats you. You're no longer going to talk to someone who mistreats you in this way. You're no longer going to have any kind of relationship with a person who treats you this way. You're not going to tell them anything about your life, and you don't want to hear anything about theirs. It's just moving on. Even if you have to do it alone, it's worth it. Because when I left all of these abusive, manipulative people behind, I was alone. I did it alone. I walked away from everybody, like systematically, over a period of time, to the point where I didn't really have anybody in my life. My biggest support was my landlord at one point. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I am so serious when I say that I walked away from every individual in my life because they were doing this stuff to me and making me feel less than. And then just one by one, I would stop and talking to them. And then I got to the point where I was standing on my own 2 feet. And when I was alone, for the first time in my life, I wasn't lonely anymore. Because I was at peace. Because nobody was mistreating me anymore. And it really helped me be able to come into myself. Because these individuals don't want you to be happy. They don't want you to have confidence. They don't want you to be assertive. They want you to continue to react instead of respond. They don't care about your health, happiness, or well-being. They just want to take everything from you until you have nothing left to give. You can't change these people. You can't beat these people. The only thing you can do is walk away for your safety, for your peace. This video will find those who it needs to find. Lots of times you can't even bring the police involved because you don't have proof, you don't have evidence. This is about taking a stand about what's best for you and doing those things. And once again, I have Anubis here as I've discussed my transformative past and how I have grown into myself today. I would never be anything close to who I am right now if I would have continued to stay in relationships with these people. I continue to be living in fear. I would continue to doubt myself. I would continue to make decisions that were not in my best interest. I think the reason why I smoked weed for so long was because that was the only thing that I had that I could cope with, that I can escape from the reality that I lived every day of people treating me like crap. It's a coping skill that no longer works for me. So I don't do it. It hasn't been that long since I've stopped doing it. It hasn't helped me in a long time, so there's really no point. True strength comes from separating yourself to do the right thing for you when people around you do not have your best interest in mind. They're operating out of their own interests, their own agenda. You don't have to take it anymore. Just leave them behind. Do whatever it takes to ghost them. Set firm boundaries. that they can't penetrate. Thank you for supporting my channel in all the ways that y'all do. I appreciate y'all very much. And if this helps just one person, it's worth it. Because I am all about being the change that I want to see in the world. Helping just one person is one more step closer to helping change the world. That is my initiative. That is my lifestyle. That is my driving force. Taking my pain and transmuting that into power for someone else. It's worth it. It's worth it. You're worth it. To invest in yourself, to separate yourself from these individuals who do nothing but mistreat you, use you, and abuse you, who isolate you, who make you feel like you're the problem. They're the problem. And they'll never admit it, and they'll never take accountability, and that's okay. You don't need that from them. All you need is your peace. All you need is your safety. I'll talk to y'all soon.